Welcome to the Undefined Leader, where we reimagine leadership, redefine work, and get curious. Derek, we're back. It's
Back.
been a few months now where we haven't been recording, not because we don't want to, but we just haven't been doing it. And every single time we meet, we talk about the podcast, we talk about all the different topics we want to discuss, and we're actually really excited about it. But it's been months now that we've actually recorded it. And the last time we met, we were talking about how we lack discipline. And that was our issue. We lack discipline. So today we thought, why not uncover what lacking discipline looks like, what it means. And we're just curious to see how that aligns with leadership and business. So today's episode is about discipline.
It's a good topic, right? Because I think that's like the instinctual shot that we get to ourselves is man, discipline is the issue here. Like our failure point is discipline. But maybe not. One conversation we were having recently is like, something like fitness or, where like we would look at someone of like, man, they're disciplined. They work out every day. And like I fall into that category. But to me, like that's not discipline. I really enjoy it. Like I look forward to it. I don't necessarily have to be disciplined in my mind to do it because it's something that I want to do and I enjoy doing it. But on the flip side, like you just said, we enjoy doing this. Like we always talk about how much fun it is. We we have, I don't think there's really any like negative things or pain or anything necessarily around like getting on here and recording and doing this. So it's obviously not enough just to enjoy it. That's my point here. So there has to be something else. It's not enough to have fun, to enjoy it, to look forward to it, to get excited about it. So maybe is discipline that something else?
I don't know. Hopefully, we'll figure it out this episode. But I think that the fitness is such a good example to start with because it's something that I think at some point in everyone's life, you've heard, oh, I want to lose weight or I want to, here's my fitness goal. And at some point, someone gives you the advice of you have to be disciplined. What does that even mean? Because you just said you work out every single day and fitness is such a big part of your life, yet you don't see it as discipline. Whereas somebody else that may not have that habit of working out every day sees it as, well, I need to be more disciplined and go to the gym every day. Why do you not see it as discipline?
There's like some forces here that all I think have a piece of this, right? We've done an episode on motivation, right? So, motivation is a force. Habits, that's a big force too, right? Habits is what's the difference between being very disciplined and just having very strong habits?
Question.
There's there's a chicken and egg component here too. I think of which comes first, motivation, discipline, habits, all of that. So yeah, I don't like, for me, like, yes, I work out every day. So motivation isn't really a factor in that. But at some point I was probably really, I rode a wave, which created some discipline, which resulted in some habits. Maybe like if there is an order here, but I don't know. Like again, I'm Alex. Like I'm sure there's some things that you really enjoy doing, and you do them consistently. I don't know. And would you say that you're really disciplined because you do that, or
Well, I think the funny thing is, like, we say discipline for very productive things, like working out or reading or writing or whatever. I love watching TV. I have great habits of watching TV every single
very
day.
disciplined
Yeah,
TV?
I don't think anyone would ever say you are so disciplined at watching TV. Why? So, at what point, what makes something disciplined, an action, a habit, discipline of something that you are trying to control yourself to do something versus you just enjoy it and you do it and it's not actually discipline.
Maybe, a lot of times in episodes, we start with like definitions.
Mhm.
How would you define discipline in your mind? Like, how would you, what is discipline in your mind?
Yeah, I have very strong emotions that come with the word discipline. When someone says discipline to me, the first few words that come to my mind is self-control, willpower, punishment. I mean, think of back in the day when I was in school or your parents and you did something and the consequence was well, I'm going to discipline you. That's like we use that word as punishment.
It's like a
So I
verb.
think yes, and it's the word might be different, and maybe throughout time, the context we've been using the word has made us think that discipline is punishment. And it's not just external punishment, like, okay, I'm going to discipline you because you did this, but it's a little bit of internal punishment too, of, well, I keep saying I want to gain muscle, so I should be working out. I need to be more disciplined at working out. I should be doing this. Like it's almost like you're punishing yourself and controlling your emotions in yourself in order to accomplish something. So to me, it's very focused on the negative consequences and the negative behaviors instead of habits to me or a positive thing. I have a goal, I want to reach it, and here are the habits and the environment that I'm going to create for myself in order to reach those goals. Versus discipline is the other side of that coin of negativity.
Yeah.
That's my
In your
interpretation of the word.
in your view of it, it was very like personal, right? Like you said, self oriented and self control. And there's another little thought there too of when you have habits, maybe you just need less discipline. It's like habits are such a powerful, ingrained, type of force. But it's interesting. I looked up like the dictionary definition of discipline, and it's the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior with
Yeah,
punishment
see
or
that
other.
word obey.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry, keep going.
with punishment or other undesired consequences for failing to comply. And then
Okay, it is very negative. Obeying towards somebody else's rules. I mean, it's not somebody else's, it could be your own rules as well.
yeah,
Punishment, consequences, like it's very based off of making someone behave in a certain way in order to like the punishment and consequences part of it.
yeah, from a like if you say someone's very disciplined, like bringing it back to a leadership context, like they have a very disciplined team, right? You could
Hmm.
take that a lot of different ways, right? It could be like a very extreme range of leadership styles and behaviors there of why they're so disciplined, right? And then even like a subset here is controlled behavior resulting from training. So, I mean, something that I mean that's like the dictionary, right? Uh, so something that comes to mind though is discipline. Like if you're disciplined, is it more about you following, choosing? Is it more about you following something, or is it more about you choosing, like choices? Like where do choices and freedom and autonomy kind of fall into this realm of discipline? Like if someone is very disciplined, are they like a drone, right? Or are they like turn the brain off and just do what they're told? Does that mean they're disciplined? Or is like discipline because you're actually the opposite? You're always choosing the right path or the right type of choices. Like, well, I'm just curious of like where this falls into play. Where do you think of like the freedom and autonomy fall into discipline? Like, is there freedom in being disciplined?
Yes, because you could be disciplined or not. You could choose. I think there is the control and there's the choosing aspect of it. So, self control, willpower, those are words that I said earlier too. You're choosing to control your emotions. You're choosing to control like what your current short term desire is in order for a long term benefit of some kind. So, you do have that choice of, do I want to give in to these rules? Do I want to obey these rules or not? Versus rethinking them. I feel like maybe it's time to redefine the word discipline in a business aspect as well. Because you were just saying, if you were a leader and someone said to you, wow, you have such a disciplined team, what does that look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think like just because of my exposure to that word, like throughout my life, and maybe like the traditional sense of it, as I almost think of like a military unit. Like that's where my mind is going to go, where it's like unquestioning, yes, sir, like no pushback, no things. It's just like, it's just even like, it's a well-oiled machine, that type of cliche of things of like, everyone knows exactly They're rolling it. Everyone knows exactly the part that they play in it. Very strong vertical hierarchy, because part of like knowing exactly where you fit is knowing that like if someone's above you, you say yes, and all of that. Like that's what jumps to my mind immediately.
Yeah, that's how I picture a disciplined team as well. Is that Do you see that as a compliment? Like if someone complimented your team instead disciplined, do you see that as a compliment? Do you see it as a negative?
This is where we always, have to be like super nuanced, right? Because of course, like context matters and the type of work that we were doing. But just in like the general, throw all that to the side now, just because I said it, right? And like kind of like the typical worlds that you and I live in, I'm not exactly sure that that's the type of feedback I would ever be striving to hear from somebody. Because Alex, if do you think everything has like pros and cons, right? So if
Mhm.
you put extra emphasis somewhere, I always think you're going to counteract that in other places, right? Do you think that a really well disciplined team is also going to be a very creative, curious, innovative team? Or are those going to be like opposites that are going to be at the expense of each other?
Yeah, I think it's at the expense of each other. So the positive, to your point, the positive of a well-disciplined team, which makes complete sense in the military or like in different organizations, it means it's well-oiled machine, it's working really well. So those are the positives of it seems like we are getting shit done, like everyone's knowing exactly how to work together and we are effective. Versus the negative is going back to the definition of obeying the rules and being trained the rules. Is anyone asking questions about the rules? Maybe the rules are not existent anymore. Maybe we should be innovating new rules. Maybe we should be questioning why are we doing the way we're doing things and getting innovative and creative. And so if everyone's obeying and not questioning, then I do think creativity and innovation, um, I'm assuming, would go down.
Yeah, like in the military context, curiosity and curiosity will get you killed, right? Curiosity killed the cat, right? Like as they say, like there's a times where curiosity is not valued or needed because it's the moment of like, hey, why? And then yeah, it's too late, right?
Hmm.
But I think like in a capitalistic sense of like a business sense where we have competitors and we need to evolve and kind of move fast, right? For business type of reasons, like questioning how we do things is going to be one of the faster ways to get over hurdles and things like that. So in some ways, if the leader is too much of a disciplinarian, they're going to stifle curiosity, creativity, innovation. But if they're too little of a disciplinarian, whatever that means, chaos, right? Because there's also going to be chaos. No one knows what to do. No one knows, no one's following anything. No one's listening to anyone. And then we've got chaos. And so it's just like, it's that right equation here of discipline meaning structure, right? Is that a more like how much discipline slash structure slash process, to start using business words maybe around discipline, is the right mix for the right level of creativity, innovation, but without getting into too much chaos. Because you and I see that all the time, that really what's holding the businesses back that we work with is chaos.
Hmm.
Maybe not enough quote unquote discipline.
You and I have been in teams before where curiosity was so high and we questioned everything and nothing got done at the same time too. So there's definitely a balance between the two. So if we were to say, because the purpose of our podcast is to rethink a work environment, rethink leadership. And so if we were to rethink discipline, let's say discipline has a bad PR rep or something, and we're here to kind of find that good balance between the creativity and curiosity and discipline. How would we rethink it? How would we try to amplify like everything that we talked about into a well functioning team?
Well, can we for a second just like pin this on the leader's skills for a second, and maybe that's like a piece of it. So obviously, like you said, when we're going through the definitions, there a lot of times your definition of discipline, and I agreed with you, is more of like an action, right? Like a verb. So a person, a leader, could be a disciplinarian, where they're viewing their role as to like hand out the action of disciplining people, or the leader could just be very disciplined, like personally. And I'm just curious, if we start there, like what effect does that have on everything that you were saying if the leader is just personally very disciplined, like how they show up, how they communicate, how they handle stress, how they handle adversity, and they've made discipline all personal. Does that transfer? Does that have like a transfer effect, do you think, to the rest of the team? That might be kind of an answer to this.
Yeah, I think it definitely has a transfer effect. I mean, in most of our podcast episodes, we end up coming back to this thought of, whatever you're expecting of your team and your culture and the business, you should be the one that's showing those and acting that way. And so I think, I mean, there's a sentence, I've never seen a business that doesn't look exactly like the business owner, doesn't look exactly like the leader. So whatever your downfalls are, usually your team has those downfalls eventually at some point too. Whatever your strengths are, however you show up to work and what you accept of yourself, I feel like that shows a very good message to your team of this is what I expect of you as well. And so I think that's a really big part of it. But I don't know if I would call that discipline versus clear expectations and communicating with your own behavior, the clear expectations that you have from your team. But maybe those are rules. Like going back to what we said about rules, maybe those expectations are the rules of this business, this team.
It's interesting because, like, if I were thinking about like self-discipline as a leader, and say like the leader doesn't react in anger, right? They're able to step away, take a few minutes, right? Hey, can we take this to a one-on-one, right? They're able to be consistent, right? With kind of like their values, consistent with their behaviors, in a type of way. Like, is that because they're very disciplined, right? And some of this like gets into like, where does leadership kind of come from? Is it inherently born inside of us, right? Of like the old school, is discipline a trait, or is being a good leader is a component of it, just like listening, and some other things like that? Is discipline this skill that has to be practiced to be disciplined in that role of, I'm not going to be overly emotional, I'm not going to like communicate poorly, I'm not going to show up late to meetings and disrespect people's time. Like, it's kind of an interesting thing to me of, if it's not discipline, what is it? Like self-discipline.
It's a good question. I think the other part of what you're saying though is, let's say you're the leader that has these self-discipline rules that you follow of like all the examples you gave, and then you're part of a team and that isn't actually like, there's one or two people that aren't actually aligning with those expectations and how you're showing up for your team. How do you communicate that then? What are the consequences of a person on your team not acting in that way? I think that's the other part of discipline, because we talk about consequences,
Yeah,
punishment,
what are you going to do about it?
like the gain. So it's how do you communicate when somebody isn't aligning with those rules? That's the other part of discipline.
Yeah, so then, are you going to discipline? Are you going to become a disciplinarian or something else?
Which again, that's like a negative thing. A disciplinarian in my mind is a punisher. You didn't obey by the rules, and now this is your punishment. This is your consequence that comes with it. But there are so many studies that are out there that have over and over again shown that focusing on the positive instead of the negative punishment is more effective. And so, in my opinion, like if we're rethinking this discipline again, I would get rid of the word discipline and I would find some other word to go around it. But for me, it's almost like you know the rules of the game. If you're the leader, you know the rules of the game. This is the culture that I want to build. To your point, you show up with that same expectation that you have of your team for yourself, and you portray. why can't I say that word?
Right?
Portray? That's I was saying it right, but it sounded really wrong, that word. And so, I lost my train of thought now. Okay, so you have the rules of the game. You show up the way you expect it. You communicate the rules of the game to your team. You train them and support them, and throughout the process of creating habits and an environment, creating an environment where those habits are easy to happen. And then maybe the punishment isn't a punishment, but it's a positive reinforcement. Like even in Sweden, I think it was like 15 years ago, they had a experiment where they put cameras on lights. And so instead of giving tickets to people that sped, they did the positive where anytime you were going the right speed, you're put in a lottery. And if you win the lottery, you get money from it. And it significantly dropped the amount of people that were speeding, actually, because they were focusing on more of the positive instead of the negative. And I think that's a little bit of the negative context that we put on the word discipline over the years of discipline is a punishment and we're focusing on the negative and the negative consequences versus as a leader, I think there's a part of the positive and focusing on the positive gain of the habits that you're trying to create.
Yeah. So what's the difference between punishment and follow through?
Well, I think follow through is a, a behavior. It's you made a promise, you've said this is my project, and following through is the behavior of actually making that project or that behavior happen versus punishment is a negative consequence of not following through or not doing
Yeah.
the behavior.
I'm just wondering, like a lot of times to me, punishment is something that gets made up or come up with it after whatever's happened. Like, hey, like you did this and now I've got to come up with a punishment.
Hmm.
Versus like you were saying, like that clear expectations of, hey, and if this doesn't happen, then this is what will happen. Right. Or if this happens, then this is what will happen. So it's not necessarily that's what I was getting with like follow through, right? Of because I think like that's why punishment it's the negative version of consequences, right? Consequence is just a neutral word. If I give you a high five, that's a consequence, right? If you get a bonus, that's a consequence of whatever happened, right? Which in some ways it's usually a follow through, and like how that ties into discipline, right? And our choices in a way versus like if I sort of know what's going to happen if this if I don't do something, is that not really a punishment or is that just really like the follow through of like I was aware, right? And I made a choice. I chose that action and I chose that type of consequence because like most leaders are, I don't think they chose to go down the leadership path because of like they're really good at punishing people. Like that might be like inadvertently like maybe what happened. Just everyone like fears them the most, so they listen to them the most because they're like the best at handing out punishments and the strictest at handing out punishments. And then maybe that's like a symptom of why we have like what we have in like a lot of cultures and things like that. But I think a disciplined person has the discipline to lay out everything and then just follow through.
I'm curious how many times we use the word discipline in this episode.
Yeah, it's
We should ask AI and ask. Yeah, we're like, the discipline is the discipline. Anyway, but I'm curious for our listeners, what does discipline mean to you? And if you were to rethink discipline in a leadership context or even within yourself, how would you rethink it? Because I think we went into circles, we started rethinking it, Derek. We don't have an answer.
yeah.
This is just us thinking through what is discipline, what's the positive and the negative, what are consequences versus positive versus negative. Said that twice, but we're just getting back into podcasting again. So,
Being disciplined.
yeah, being disciplined. Okay, so let's do this. Leave us a comment or DM us what you think discipline is, and Derek and I will keep thinking through what discipline means, self-discipline as well as leadership discipline, and maybe we'll have a little part two from here. Thanks for listening.